Ah, hello. You must be here to hear about the stories of my noble ancestors. You see, it all started with one Thomas Caron, who lived on the Isle of Man in the country of Wales. You see, his family there were bakers, and he was a baker. And one day, he fell in love with a woman named Anne, and they got married, and they loved each other very much. And anyway, they were living together, and they were happily ever after. And one day, some missionaries from the Mormon church, which was newly founded at this point, approached him, and they gave him a book which he read, and he wound up joining the Mormon church, and his family ostracized him for this. So, with nowhere to live in Wales, he turned his sights to America, where the saints were living in Missouri at the time. So, he and Anne and their young daughter traveled across the Atlantic into New York, where they migrated to Missouri to join the remainder of the saints there. Anyhow, they were living in Missouri peacefully, but as we all know, that didn't turn out too well for the Mormons, and so there were all sorts of scary extermination orders and whatnot, and they were forced to flee to Illinois, where they stayed in Nauvoo. They created the city Nauvoo out of a swamp, and they were living there, and again, they were forced to leave. See, these Mormons all vote in a block, and there was talk of Joseph Smith running for president, and if that happened, people wouldn't be too happy. So, they turned their sights westward, and they joined a company heading west. And as they were journeying west, the federal government approached these Mormon pioneers, asking them to supply a force of men. See, war had broken out to the south, and they needed 500 able men to fight in this war. And Thomas Caron volunteered. And as he went off to fight in this war, they never actually did any fighting, just marching. His wife and his daughter traveled onwards, and his wife and his daughter got very sick, and his daughter passed away. His wife recovered. But as the Mormon battalion, as it was called, was traveling, Thomas Caron became very ill, and his sick beds were full. There was nowhere for him to be nursed back to health. And so they wound up just leaving him for dead on the side of the road, with his tongue hanging out like this. True story. And it just so happened that some passing travelers happened to spy him, and they picked him up, and they nursed him back to health, and he was reunited with his family in Utah, where he was later asked to become one of the first settlers of Logan. So he traveled up here into Cache Valley, and that's why there are so many Carons in Cache Valley to this day, and we are all related. It's kind of scary.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm. How much time have we?
That is 3 minutes and 55 seconds.
This can be a little more difficult than I thought.
Oh yeah.
Okay.